Howdy y'all, this is Texas Gaming Industries here, and welcome to episode 24, part 10 of my Let's Play Transport Fever 2. In the previous episode, from a failed recording, we built our track network to reach the city of Chicago, Illinois, and hopefully in this episode we're going to build our new extension to basically connect the western main line to Chicago. Unfortunately, we won't have enough time to deliver the supplies to help build the World's Fair. Well, I have a feeling that we could deliver supplies to it eventually, but we'll have to wait and see.
Chicago is hosting the World's Columbian Exposition to celebrate the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus' arrival in the New World in 1492. The centerpiece of the fair, held in Jackson Park, was a large water pool representing the voyage Columbus took to the New World. Chicago had won the right to host the fair over several other cities, including New York City, Washington, D.C., and St. Louis. Make sure that lots of passengers can get to Chicago and visit the exposition,
which will be taken care of both by my Mainline Express trains and the local bus service. However, the Chicago World's Fair needs either glasses of white wine, cigars, or meat. And since it is only going to be around for at least 1 year, we should at least transport some commodities here. We'll do a 360-meter freight station and place it right next to the fairgrounds. We'll just be calling this the Fairground Sidings. There we go. We'll then build a small mainline connection from here. Oh, we're in debt again. But the cool thing is we now have catenary available, but we don't have any electric engines. Quite a shock. However, with a little bit of money from our loans, we could basically build ourselves a nice railroad. Well, a nice section of track to connect to the fairgrounds. We'll convert this to that, do that, and do that. We'll make it a slip switch. This crossover piece. And place down the signals for this section of track. Now then, with that done, we can now get started. I think it's time to get started on the new extent on the eastern route section of Chicago. We'll place down a 360-meter 2-track station here near Chicago. Place one right next to this bus stop so people can at least catch the bus into the major parts of Chicago. We'll have to increase my loan a little bit. We'll connect this, and then we'll start expanding our track work. Wait, why 3 platforms? I just need a 2-track platform. Too much slow. Oh, no wonder. There's a tunnel in the way, and that tunnel is gonna basically cause my track to go into that. So I'll have to do something else. Okay, let's try this. Won't be near the bus stop, but at least, however, it can allow my tracks to climb out of the station. That's a bit of a bad cutting, but we could at least be able to smooth this out. Lay that track flat. We could connect to Joliet, but the last time I did that on before I actually made this channel, I did play this map. But I couldn't get a lot of passengers going into Joliet. They rather prefer traveling by road. So we're just going to operate an intercity bus service to Joliet, and then one down to Peoria. But we'll have to basically go alongside the river once again. Not to mention, we still have some states that still need commodities brought in. Because for our transport rights, we need to basically make the states feel like that we are serving them, rather than just spending our money on going through a state where we won't be serving anyone. So far, we got to. There's one train of iron ore heading up towards the steel mill, which I think will complete one contract for the state of. Oh, Kentucky. It needs more clothing. We get stuff delivered to Kentucky for clothing. Let's see. This train of sugar cane is empty. Wow, there's a lot of grain needed to be picked up there. Let's see, what else? Also, I feel like we're not producing much clothing because our trucks are not delivering any cotton. We'll fix that with a new service. I was thinking maybe it's time to get into the shipping industry. Because if I'm building a railroad to compete this one right here, this one basically, I need to basically prove that my service is better than any others. So I'll basically build a large deep station right super close to, well, the factory so cotton can be delivered there. And I'll build one right next to this one down the river that's across the way from Vicksburg. Bit of a long distance, but it could work. And besides, the water is navigatable by the look of this graph here. So, my ships can easily travel from this end all the way down here. I also basically added 2 new mods. If you may remember from the French map, we were able to acquire this, the British coaster, a small little boat, which we'll be using to transport cotton along the Mississippi. Sure, it doesn't look like it, but a little cargo ship like this could basically be very beneficial. So now we have a shipping route that will basically compete with the steamboats along the river. We'll be just calling this ship route, as this is going to be the only one that's going to be using ships. The British coaster will then exit the port and head up the river. The ship can carry at least either 200 or 300 units of cargo. I'm not so sure it will pick up 200 or 300 units of cotton, but if it's the latter, I'll be very excited because 300 units of cotton will produce 300 units of clothing based on the rule for the textile factory. Besides, the small boat does actually fit pretty well on this river, if I say so myself. Now, let's focus on the extension along the main line here. Speaking of which, the other mod I installed, hopefully will be appearing as we build this test bridge, is, let's see, where is it? Girder Bridges, I guess it's just not available yet. But it's the angular bridge that basically, yeah, it's not available yet. That's quite sad. But it's the same mod that's used for made by the same person who made one of the tunnels that we are using in this map. Let's see. I don't want to go 46 miles an hour and 45 on this curve, but I have no choice. I'll have to basically do this. I'll have to cut through this farmer's field. Not what I want to do, because that'll basically waste time. And seriously? What's going on? I'm trying to make as much money as I can. Okay. Let's try this again. We'll get rid of that, and get rid of this crop field that's located too close to the line. We'll place down a 4-track station here at Peoria. Level 1 station buildings, please, and thank you. We'll place it right... we'll place it right here. We'll then have to get rid of these buildings. And get rid of the platforms in the middle and on the far left. Once these platforms are gone, we can then replace them with the wooden platforms and our Deadwood Station building block into place. And once that is complete, we'll have a complete middle, east, and west mainline serving with an express train on all three each. But first, we also got to make sure there's a crossover for our passengers to transfer over from the mainline express trains to local commuter trains, and vice versa. We could do that, but it wouldn't basically work. I mean, we'll have a middle track for like freight, but I mean, these two could be used for freight, and these two for express trains, but we need to have one set of platforms for our local commuter trains as well. Alright. Let's place down the station building here, and place down some roofs. Alright. We'll need to also build a bridge over this roadway. We'll use a steep stone viaduct for the mainline express trains, and just a wooden trestle for the local commuter trains. Ooh. We'll have to basically make this road a little flatter in order for the bridge to basically be in effect. Too much slope. There we go. A little bit of an inconvenience, but if it allows my bridges to be built over the road, that is... Oh my gosh. Seriously? Let's see. Will this work? Oh yes. Thank you so much. Though I think for the commuter train platforms, we'll have to build the crossover just before the bridge, as that bridge won't basically work well with a crossover on it. I mean, I've done it on other bridges previously, but I think it's best if I just do it the old-fashioned way. We'll have a curve down from the Peoria station, and once we get down to the flatter terrain, we can then connect it to the western main line, and that will basically do it. The main line is now the western route is now connected into Peoria, and now the only thing left is to connect the station to Chicago. Once that is done, we are finished with our three mainline key corridors for the western, mid, middle, and eastern routes. Why am I using the erase tool? I need to basically flatten this ground a bit. Alright. Alright. Do that, and that. We'll set up the signals. Alright. Whoops. Wrong direction. Ah! Sometimes placing these signals can be a real bit of a hassle. All we just do is just a little bit more connections. And then just have to do is add a crossover section here at the new station in Chicago. And that should basically do it. Though I do need to also connect to the machine factory, so I guess we'll have to build over this road, over the river, over this road leading into Joliet, and then connect to here. Because if we deliver lumber and steel, we could produce machines, and machines are only located need to be delivered to one city, Memphis. But we can also deliver clothing and oil here, so let's basically do it 5 tracks. So that way, trains can pick up the loads of, well, oil and clothing, and, well, drop off the loads of clothing and oil here and brought into town by local trucks, and lumber and steel can be dropped off at the nearby factory and then taken, and another train will pick up the loads and bring them to Memphis. Alright. Chicago Annex will be our freight yard for now. Let's basically make this a bit of a more cutting for the tunnel for the freight yard for now. Let's see. There we go. Now our freight yard is now ready for work. What we have to do is just dig a tunnel out of the freight yard and get it up to the same level as our mainline track. We'll take a curve to the left, do that, and then just basically build right over. Oh, I always want to make sure that the main line, that a road connecting 2 towns, does not go over a railroad crossing twice. About to mention, let's change this bridge into a more modern steel girder bridge instead. I need that strong bridge strength. Let's place down another bridge, and then connect both ends here. Do this. And then, voila! Our new mainline freight connections into Chicago are finally finished. As not only will now be able to produce food, but we'll also be able to deliver lumber, steel, as well as oil and clothing into Chicago. We'll have to set up that as well, and make sure that people can still travel between Chicago up towards Champaign. We need to make sure that the roadway is still in good nick. Let's basically build it underneath this road bridge. That and that. We'll have to basically make the signal a little distance between these 2 points. Alright, that should basically do it for the main line. All we need to do now is just finish up the rest of the operations. We'll get started with a new express passenger service to travel along our newly constructed main line. Let's head back into New Orleans and start our passenger service on track 3, and let's make our stops along the new western route. We will head for Baton Rouge, Natchez, Vicksburg, Memphis, Jonesboro, Poplar Bluff, St. Louis, Peoria, and Chicago. It's called Chicago Hall, but it will be renamed to Chicago Terminal. Well, Chicago Central Station. You'll go back from Peoria on track 1. You'll go back to St. Louis on that same track. Poplar Bluff. You will go on track 2. Jonesboro, Memphis Central Station, Vicksburg, you'll go on track 1. You go to Natchez on track 1. And then Baton Rouge, you go on track 1 as well. Alright, this will be Express Train C, which will be known as the Western Route. And let's get a new locomotive to service our new line. As for the locomotive that we'll be choosing, we'll be using the New York Central and Hudson River Railroad Empire State Express 440, and we'll basically use a couple of these Celestary coaches that we have used for our 2 other express trains. We'll have about 7 coaches, an observation car, a baggage, and a combination. We'll have to take on another hefty loan. I said I don't want to go over 400, but I have to in order to get this equipment. Hopefully, we'll start getting enough money to pay off my loan, because once we get most of our services done, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to pay it off. Our 44th train will be used on, let's see, Express Train C, but now we also got to transport cigars, now that we are producing them, down to Chicago for the World's Fair. I'll have to get rid of this. Do that. And turn this into a slip switch. I'll have to set up a new service to pick up cigars here and bring them into the fairgrounds. You'll be dropping them off on track 3. Full load any 10 minutes. Freight train N2 cigars. And we'll get rid of this, put a 1 here because there'll now be another train carrying cigars, which we'll have to copy. Which this costs about 14.7. This is going to be so expensive. We'll replace this engine with the Mogul, of course, and that will be our 45th train. 45 trains! Though it doesn't beat the record that we had back on the French map. Let's see, what else can I do? I did state I want to deliver corn to this farm here, which will be perfect so that we can deliver meat, all the 2 different loads of meat, as well as milk, as Chicago needs meat for this food processing plant, and the fair needs meat as well. But we'll also need to deliver some corn in order for it to be produced. So, I guess it's a good time to start up another corn service. We'll basically build the station as close as we can to this farm, but it's not going to be easy, nor is it going to be any cheap. Alright, it has to be built into this cutting. We'll get up, do that. We'll have to build along these fields and figure out how to connect them together to, well, not disturb any of these fields. As I can build through these fields, but I don't want to upset their crop arrangements. So, in order for my corn to be delivered to the main line, once this autosave is done with, I'll be able to basically starting corn deliveries for producing, well, meat bound for Chicago for both the fairgrounds and, well, and for the food processing plant. Sometimes I'm so focused on trying to do something, I sometimes forget what I'm going to say. Alright. Now, considering that Hattiesburg this farm produces milk as well, I might as well make it a 4-track station. Because this farm could also produce milk bound for New Orleans. We can save 2 of those tracks for basically delivering loads of meat, and 1 track for carrying dairy products out. Let's see. Alright. Now what we'll have to do is just curve it down, or make an embankment. Actually, let's try making a bridge. I mean, there's only going to be 1 train going this direction anyway, so we'll basically try doing a small bit of sidings here. Alright. Now the main line is finally connected to this farm. We'll place down another signal here for the farm sidings, and another set here. Alright, we'll set up 1 more corn train, pick up the corn at this farm located here near Kankakee, and bring it down to the cattle farm here near Hattiesburg. You'll drop off the corn on track 1. This will be known as freight train. Which one was the corns? G. So it will be known as G-free corn. We'll copy one of the trains used on the corn service, which will cost about 15.2, which we actually have. We'll clone it and put it to work on that train. And I think we'll basically have done enough good for this episode. So, if you enjoyed this episode of my Let's Play Transport Fever 2, please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to Texas Gaming Industries for new video uploads every Friday or Saturday, depending on my outside schedule. And, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Bye!